Make sure I tag you, sending data. Boom, boom. And give me the light. Beautiful. I think we've got it. All right, man. I'm so excited. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here today, even on the road. Let me just double check. I've got this going here through LinkedIn. All right. Beautiful. We're live. Mr. Jeff Lerner. Appreciate it, brother. How was the rest of your other trip with your wife?
Oh, that was amazing, man. You know, sometimes you just got to tell the world that they're a little less important and that the thing that matters most is more important. That, in my case, being my wife. We went away for a week. Other than your interview and 2 other interviews that I did that same afternoon, that was the only work I allowed into my life within a whole week. And everything else was just having fun with my best friends. And it was amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Well, I'm super grateful for you having me. That was an absolute blast. And all of you watching this live, really appreciative of you being here. If you have any questions you want to drop in as we're going, feel free to drop them into the chat box. Please make sure you share this stream with others so others see this and get this information. I'm bringing you an absolute legend today who you may or may not heard about. And so as a way to get started, because I can't do it as well as you, man, give us a quick background and please brag about yourself as much as possible. What led you to where you're at in your life and in your career today?
Thank you for permission to brag. I mean, it's one of the the weird sort of ironies of my existence that, like, as a digital marketer, you basically have to get pretty good at celebrating your own successes, right? Because nobody's looking for them. People aren't coming to go, hey, who is this guy? And let me go learn about what he's done, unless you've given them a reason to be interested. And usually that's by you talking about something you've done, right? So anyway, I've gotten over all the false modesty, and the reality is, and there's a deeper truth in this, in the world that we live in, which I think we're going to end up talking about, which is that you have to get good at self-promotion. You really do. It's one of the hardest things for people to fully wrap their heads around. Is like, it is not arrogant, it is not ego-driven to let the world know how valuable you are and how much you want to give and share that value with them, with the world, with the people that can benefit from it. You know, if you have food and there's a lot of people out there that are hungry, you're not bragging to be like, yo, I got so much food. Y'all are going to love this stuff. I know how hungry you are. Come check out my food. That's not bragging. That's connecting, right? And so in that sense, thank you. I am Jeff Lerner. I'll just get right to the big one. I've generated over $50 million in sales on the internet since I got online in 2008. And that's from being a little old me who went online, tapping on his keyboard, learning, trying to figure out. Initially, it was affiliate marketing. Did over $10 million in affiliate marketing sales from 2008 to 2013. And I started a digital agency because I'm like, well, you know, affiliate marketing is all about lead generation. Well, if you know how to generate leads for your whatever products you're selling, then you know how to generate leads in general. Well, there's a whole lot of businesses that want help with that too, right? So I started an agency in 2013. In 13, 14, I guess in 6 years, that agency generated about $30 million in sales, doing primarily lead generation for small and mid-sized businesses. Sold the agency in 2018, was able to cash in nicely, and started my education business in this month, September 2018. And in right at 2 years, we've scaled our online education and training courses up to, we're on track to do probably about $30 million in the next 12 months. And so, yeah, I've gotten pretty good at this stuff. And when I say this stuff, what I'm trying to generally describe is a formula, a skill set, and a way of approaching the new digital economy that can empower just about any human being on earth to have any life that they want. I was a broke jazz musician when I started, who had tried to start multiple franchise restaurants and lost them both in the Great Recession in 2007. I was $495,000 in debt. I'd never generated more than $42,000 in personal income in my life at that time. I was 29 years old in 2008. And I was like, okay, what is a jazz musician who's never made more than 40 grand in a year and owes the banks, the US Treasury, because it was an SBA loan, so it's actually backed by the federal government, the landlords, I owed $495,000 to the world. What does that guy do in 2008? As it turned out, that guy goes online and starts learning the skills that I just described. And in my case, has that experience where, $55 million in sales 12 years later, or 11 years, however long it's been, it's like, whoa, what just happened? How is this my life? So now my mission is to share. It's to share with the world that these tools and these opportunities are out there for everyone. A lot of us are making it harder than it has to be because we're just locked in the main lane of what we've been taught our whole life, and we're not fully embracing what's right there in front of us. Every time we check our email, every time we buy a product on Amazon, every time we search on Google, we're interacting with tools that actually present huge opportunity, and many of us don't even realize it.
And you really do that. I mean, you're such a giving person. I mean, the amount of content you put out there, there's so many guys who have had those successes and your similar successes or wins or whatever. And they're just kind of not sharing that with the world, which goes back to your bragging thing, is great disservice in a lot of ways, which is why I'm so honored to be able to, talk with you about that and really put things into perspective. I'm 26, right? And you're talking about going through this at 29. What was going through your head at that time when you're, almost $500,000 in debt and had barely even made, moderate wage at that point in time? What's going through your mind at this point in time?
Yeah, I mean, $500,000 was more money than I had made in my entire life at that point, gross, and what was going through my head, gosh, it's hard to actually, fully remember. Like, I should have journaled. I should have done a better job of being like, what is my daily experience? But here's what I can say that I know is that I remember having this palpable sense of like, it was like a comedy of the absurd. I'm a jazz musician. I play gigs at restaurants for $100, and if I'm lucky, they'll let me order something off the menu at the end of the night as a bonus. Like, that was my life. The concept of that guy having to pay off $500,000, and by the way, over 300,000 of that was to the US Treasury Department. They were not going to go away. I couldn't dodge them. I couldn't default on them. That was going to hang over me for the rest of my life. And so it was like ridiculous. It's
not to cut you off, but I may have missed this. What put you into that amount of debt in the beginning?
So I was all through my 20s when I was a pianist. I was always trying to start businesses or freelance projects or other ways to bring in money. Because here's the thing, I loved music, but I also recognized that the poverty that I lived in as a musician would eventually make it untenable to keep being a professional musician. I just wasn't a person. I wanted to get married. And by the way, I did get married and divorced twice as a musician, which only reinforced life, having a great life with family and kids and abundance. And it's like, it's next to impossible when you're always stressed about money. And so I had that experience. So I was like, I know I can't do this forever. I got to start a business. I got to get other income streams coming in. And I was always starting businesses, failed at like at least eight of them, depending on how you carve it up. You could say 10 or more, because some businesses, it was like, I try this and I try this and I try this. And it was the same business, but it was also 3 different businesses. It's how you count it doesn't matter. Point is, I failed nonstop for like 15 years or 13 years. And my last failure was the biggest failure. It was 2006. The banks were completely insane. They would loan money to anyone with a pulse. In fact, actually, you didn't even have to have a pulse. I knew people who stole dead people's, I say I knew it. I heard about people that were taking dead people's social security numbers and getting $100,000 lines of credit. So like they gave this jazz musician $450,000 in loans to open up franchise restaurants. And I had a franchisor. They never should have given me the rights to their franchise. Dude, I was an idiot. I'd never been successful at anything. And this franchisor up in Idaho is like, we're going to give this kid the rights to develop Houston, Texas, a market with 4.5 million people that you could put 40 stores, 40 quick serve restaurants of any one brand in Houston, Texas. And they're going to let me develop that market. Stupidity over there, stupidity over there. They shouldn't have given me the money. They shouldn't have given me the brand. And they just let this kid go make a mess of it right into the mouth of the Great Recession, when, you know, it was just the biggest debacle you could imagine. And so I come out of there and I'm like, this is so ridiculous. All bets are off. I can do anything I want because I couldn't possibly be worse off than I am.
So even something as replicatable and repeatable as like a franchise, what caused you to fail even in that scenario?
Yeah, I mean, this is where I became so passionate about doing things that give you control of your life and your livelihood. In 2007, just like in the first half of 2020, you could have a great business and suddenly you have no business because of things that you had no control over. So I had my 2 restaurants were doing, I forget the exact numbers. It was like between them, they were doing like $40,000 a month in sales. And it was like, I had to do like 35,000 to pay the bills, right? So you make very thin numbers until you pay off the bank loans with a traditional franchise model, which usually takes 3 to 5 years. There's almost no profit as the owner, but you know, at least I was alive and, you know, kicking the can down the road. And then a lot of my clients, I was in 2 commercial hubs in Houston, Texas. Houston's a market is totally driven by the energy industry. Half of my clients were people that worked at oil companies and came to have lunch at my restaurant. And the other half of my business was the oil companies themselves ordering catered food into their office for meetings and stuff. Price of oil, a barrel of oil dropped from like $120 to like $40. All those companies either went out of business or they slashed their budgets and stopped ordering food. My $40,000 a month that was a few thousand above my break-even point turned into like $18,000 a month, which was $20,000 below my break-even point. And I had no cushion. I was out of business in a couple of months.
So what was the turning point? What was the pivotal moment where things started looking up the other direction? I'm sure at this point, it's probably easy to even want to throw in the towel and like, man, starting a business, like that's not my deal, but what kept you going?
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, let me say there's 2 things that happened to me that to some degree predetermined the course of my life. One was when I was 16 years old and I had a job, a traditional job where you go into an office. It was a summer job. I was a teenager and I lasted 3 weeks. It was at a law firm. I worked in this, the office supply room where we refilled print cartridges and we, you know, delivered paper clips and staples to secretaries. And I got fired after 3 weeks for what I can generally just describe as having a shit attitude. Can I say that on your show? Having
whatever you want, man.
A very shitty attitude that
Keep it real.
It was born of a very shitty experience of working in a very shitty environment for at least some very shitty people.
Now you're overdoing it. Now you're just overriding.
Oh, right.
I'm messing with you.
In a very shitty power structure that is a big time law firm. And so I knew then I could never have a job. So when you talk about throwing in the towel on starting businesses, that was just never an option for me because having a job was never going to be an option for me. So then the other thing was in 2008 when this, or 2007, 2008, when all this happened, that was what predetermined or determined that ultimately I was going to go online. I was going to go digital. And I was essentially from there, I was only going to build businesses in digital. And I was only going to build investments in either digital or, you know, real estate or like super sound things. Like I wasn't going to be plugged into the brick and mortar infrastructure of the world ever again. And so in terms of the turning point, I talk about the absurdity of it all. Like it's one thing if you find yourself, if you're like a 12-year-old kid and you find yourself in a fight with, you know, another 12-year-old kid who's 10 pounds bigger than you on the playground, you're like, whew, this is going to be tough, but maybe I can give it a little extra and hold my own, right? If you're a 12-year-old kid and you find yourself in the ring with George Foreman, it's just funny at that point, right? You're like, okay, well, I guess I'll see my parents at the funeral. Like, that was me. A broke jazz musician who owes the bank $4,000 has a problem. A broke jazz musician who owes $500,000, he's just a punchline of a joke at that point. And so it was the most liberating thing that ever happened to me, dude. And there was no way I could make the situation worse. So going online, all these things that I deal with people every day now that they're so scared to do. You go online, should I buy this little training course? Should I give it my all? Should I pay attention to it? Should I give it time? Should I go through the videos? What if it doesn't work? What if I'm a failure? What if my wife thinks I'm a loser? What if people make fun of me? What if I go live on Facebook and I don't know what to say and I feel like an idiot? Like all these dumb what ifs that people handicap themselves with, they didn't even apply to that guy because there was nothing that guy could do to make his life worse. By the way, my wife was done with me. That was my second marriage. Jeff, you're a loser. You're a risk taker. You're a gambler. I can't build a life with you. We're losing our apartment. I had lost my apartment. We ended up moving in with her parents. She hates me. They moderately tolerate me. So I'm just hiding in my room in the spare bedroom on a laptop, which is one of my last remaining possessions was my laptop. I've always been an Apple guy. I had a Mac laptop. And I just start going to learn affiliate marketing. And I ran out the last money I had on a credit card buying a course on affiliate marketing. And I was an idiot until 18, in everybody else's eyes in my life at the time, I was just an idiot. Until 18 months later, when I had paid off $495,000 in debt, then I wasn't such an idiot anymore. $50 million later now, I'm still not such an idiot anymore, except there's still some people that think I'm an idiot, but I can live with it at this point.
So acquiring skills like making that investment and educating into yourself, that sounded like it was it was just the right piece of information.
Yeah, it was investing in the right set of skills, which are digital marketing. I mean, I don't believe at this point there's any more valuable set of skills in the world than specifically direct response digital marketing. So copywriting, sales funnels, understanding behavioral psychology, understanding product modeling so that going into a business that if it fails, it's going to fail small, but if it succeeds, it's going to succeed big. So like leveraging yourself for risk and mitigating downside. There's like all this stuff. You learn that stuff, you own the world. And by the way, you own it from any beach in the world that you choose to sit on, as long as you have a laptop and an internet connection. But also the other thing that came with that program was I became a part of a community where I now had people around me that had actually done these things. The day that I had you on my show when I was in LA, I told you I was on two other shows that day, or I had one other guy on my show and then I was on one other guy's show. And the guy whose show I was on was a guy named Mike Dillard, who has the Mike Dillard podcast, which is a huge entrepreneurial podcast now. Mike Dillard was a member of that actual program back in 2008 when I joined it. And he was just transitioning out of network marketing into digital marketing. He was one of the guys that I got exposed to I was like, oh my gosh, this is real. People actually do this. And then I went to an event, and you talk about the turning point. The real true down to the minute turning point was probably when I went to that event, which was about 3.5 months after I bought the training. I went to their event and I met guys like Mike Dillard. And I met guys like Aaron Parkinson, who I've also had on my show. And I met guys like Andrew Cass, who I've done a ton of business with and I have coming on my show in another month or two. I met these actual human beings. And by the way, I just named you 3 people that I'm taller than, meaning, holy crap, not only are these people real, they're not even giants, And it became real at that moment. And at that point, all my boats were incinerated and I was never going back.
So I think a lot of people hear that too, the power of connection and network. Talk a little more specifically how that is the big turning point, not just coursework, not just education, but actually connections. what significance does that have in becoming, a millionaire and doing millions in business?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's, first of all, like I'm always saying I'm not a woo-woo guy. Like I don't do stuff with crystals, and I don't have, all these like trancy practices and stuff. But I'm always saying that as an offset to what I've experienced. I've experienced some of the most cosmic, karmic, metaphysical, manifestative, just amazingness in my life because of relationships and the way one relationship leads to another relationship, or it leads to a perspective that allows you to approach a situation differently, so you'll make a different choice and adopt a different behavior than you ever would have without that relationship. Like, it is beyond powerful what happens through relationships. Everybody, I think, understands this whole concept of like, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Everybody, talks now about the power of mentorship. Like, I think the biggest difference between the way I approach it and the way a lot of people approach it is it's kind of like the way I approach health and fitness. Like, it's not a thing I do. It's a person I've become. I've become a really, really healthy guy. It's not because I go to the gym. It's not because I drink a green juice. It's because my whole life lines up with like a consistent set of practices that are just reflective of a certain identity that I've taken on for myself. It's like, I'm going to be a healthy guy, man. That's just who I'm going to be. Relationships are the same way. It's not like, oh, I got a mentor, check a box. Oh, I listened to an audio tape. Oh, check the box. Oh, I made a powerful friend. Check the box. No, it's
why aren't I a millionaire yet?
Yeah, right? It's not a series of boxes that you check. It's a way you become in the world. And I'm a born introvert, man. I'm an awkward musician. I do not do well with people naturally, but I have conditioned myself to get comfortable being uncomfortable and pursuing strategically significant relationships in my life, and investing in them and seeing where they lead and exploring opportunities. I go down a lot of roads that don't go anywhere, but they're still valuable because of the relationships that are built through the exploration. And it's just become this thing now where I've given up to the universe that like everything I have, including my actual wife and children, literally, and there's a story there, I would not be married if not for the set of events. Like, in fact, that event that I went to in March of 2009, where I met those 3 people, Mike Dillard, Aaron Parkinson, Andrew Cass, that I told you about, I met someone else there too. His name was Carl Bessie. He was the president of the company that was hosting the event, and I'm married to his daughter. And he ended up introducing me to her 2.5, 3 years later.
It's amazing. It only takes that one right connection, it's like you're always 3 feet from gold at any point in time.
So
it
true.
seems to me
R.U. Darby.
What's that?
R.U. Darby. That's the guy who was literally 3 feet from gold.
That's crazy. It always seems to me when I interview and talk to guys like you, it's always, there's no like super complexity to it. It is so much just like literally building those relationships, making the connections, and then taking the action. And if your intentions are set in a focused way, like the magic just kind of follows along with it. It's kind of wild.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah, that's incredible. So, talk a little bit. There's so much information out there, and I think anyone listening to this wants to learn digital marketing or learn a new skill set now, from 2008 when you were starting down this path to now 2020, probably millions more different coursework. Like, how would you, like, if you're learning a new digital marketing skill set, for example, how would you know what information to jump into and dive into and invest into?
Well, first of all, I mean, it's like, what are the most successful people doing? And I can tell you, I mean, if people say, well, what's changed from 2008 to 2020? I'll tell you what's changed. In 2008, it was all about search. Like, I made a ton of money in affiliate marketing because I got really good at one skill, and that was search engine marketing. I was rank. I knew I got really good. I did all the deep work and the very time consuming work. I built out thousands of keyword campaigns. Like, you know, you pick one thing and go deep with it. Don't try. That's one of the biggest mistakes I see with digital marketing is there's so many different roads to go down and skills to learn. In particular, and you know, multiple skills are important. I mean, copywriting is important. Direct response design is important. Funnel architecture is important. Pricing models are important. Understanding how to split test is those are kind of the main ones that like you can't live without. But in terms of lead generation, you know, channels and kind of modalities of marketing, pick one and master it. Because like, listen, you could become a millionaire today by being the best guy on TikTok. You could become a millionaire today by being the best guy on LinkedIn. You could become a millionaire today by being great at podcasting. Just pick a thing and really, really get good at it. But I know what thing I'm focused on right now, and I know what thing I focused on back then. Back then it was search marketing. I was a dominant search marketer. I had other top guys in that company coming to me saying, hey man, we don't know how you're getting not just the conversion, say the overall conversions that you're getting, but the ratio between your ad spend and your gross income. Like I would have a $60, $70, $80,000 a month of personal commissions, and I'd be spending like 5 or 10 grand on search ads. They'd be doing like 2 to 1. I'd be doing like 8 to 1, like 800% ROAS on search spend. And so what I did was I took the same skill set. I was a self-taught professional musician. So like I would sit, you think about me as a pianist, I would sit at a keyboard and like read music and read chord changes and practice different chord voicings and scales. And it was like really nerdy behavior, right? To observe, like, right? I just did the same thing, man, with my digital business. I got obsessed with search marketing. I spent a year I think I could have gone toe to toe if there was such a thing for like search marketer of the year. Like I was really freaking good at it. That was then. Now it's too competitive, man. It's so expensive. Unless you have a very mature, very well-structured offer that you have a ton of confidence around, and you know that your monetization path is 10 times better than the average, don't go try to cut your teeth on search marketing right now. Starting today and 2 years ago when I started my education business is exactly what I did. Become a dominant personal brand. Invest in defining yourself, creating just like crystal clear, powerful messaging, and build a deep relationship with a tribe of people through really powerful social platforms. Personally, I chose Facebook as my primary. I later moved into YouTube, and I would say now YouTube is probably my stronger focus. Instagram is kind of coming up in third place for me, but I'm starting to invest in that. But whether you pick one or you pick all three or you pick LinkedIn or you pick 5, I wouldn't pick 5 initially, but the strategy is there's a specific science now to how you build a dominant personal brand with a deeply passionate tribe online. When you build that now, you have like you're on steroids competing against a bunch of puny, malnourished weaklings.
So the equivalent to search back in the day, now building your personal brand is that blue ocean opportunity for mass scale growth.
It is, because it's by definition non-duplicatable and non-duplicated in the market, because you are you don't exist. And you want to make search marketing work, have a dominant personal brand so that when people click on one of your search ads and they do what they do now, what Amazon has taught us to do now, which is like, I'm going to go find some reviews. I'm going to go cross-validate this guy on other platforms. I'm going to go check him out. Holy crap, this guy's a winner. This guy has clear messaging. I love this guy. I like this guy. I trust this guy. I'm going back to that search ad and I'm buying whatever he's selling. That's how you win now on search marketing, because the big brands, you're competing with big brands that are already known, liked, and trusted, or big personal dominant influencer brands that have that same advantage. You can't beat them. Join them. Become known, liked, and trusted through your brand. Then you can actually compete at search.
Absolutely. And I know a lot of people too who build personal brand and they start into this but don't get any traction, they don't get any business or get any sales from it. So, if you were starting completely from scratch with the aim to build another 8-figure business online, where would you start? How do you take that personal brand and actually monetize it? What is the formula for that?
And let me say, this is not a hypothetical answer. 2 years ago, I started completely from scratch and in less than 2 years have built a multiple 8-figure per year business. I mean, we've done, we're doing between $2 and $3 million a month in sales now in less than 24 months, starting from scratch as an unknown, because even though I had done well with my agency and I had done well with affiliate marketing, neither of those two business models make you a well-known person. There's guys that own $500 million agencies and not one person knows their name, right? And there's guys that do $50 million a year in affiliate sales. And unless they're at speaker at Affiliate Summit and you happen to go to Affiliate Summit, you don't know who they are, right? So neither of those two business models put me in a position to do what I'm doing now as an entrepreneurial educator and influencer. I started that from scratch 2 years ago. And so it's not, oh, well, what would you do if you had to start from scratch, but you never will, so I can't totally trust your answer. No, you can trust.
I think we're having a technical difficulty here. A little freeze. Bear with us, guys. If you're enjoying this, give a little love. Make sure you share this with others. Hit up that live stream for me. See what's going on here. Let's see. Seems to be working. Okay. We're still going. Give Jeff a couple minutes. Probably gonna have to dial back in. Lost the internet. That's what happens when you're on the road. The only downside to being on the road and doing podcasts. I've been there. It's frustrating. But hey, if you guys are enjoying this, make sure. And by the way, B2B Mentors is on all of your favorite podcast apps. Every podcast app out there. You just search B2B Mentors, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spotify, Spreaker, Stitcher, SoundCloud, you name it. You can find us there. You can also follow the link in these live streams and make sure you tune in. If you're not following me already or catching this, make sure you are, so you catch more lives and you can drop questions in real time. If you would like, we can get them answered. If you're watching this after the fact, you can always drop questions and make sure you go give Jeff Lerner a follow. We'll see what's going on here. Technology, man, I tell you. Yeah.
Dude, I'm so sorry. I'm staying in a hotel and they authorize you for internet access in 24-hour blocks.
So of course it was at that 23:50, minute mark or whatever.
Didn't even occur to me I don't even know what I would have done, but yeah, dude.
Listen, you gave me a chance to give a little plug. Like, it's all good. I got to get a little commercial in the meantime in there.
Good. So you want me to just pick right up? I remember where
right up there. Yeah, it was great. Just dive right in, man.
So yeah, I went out to the market with two sort of aims behind my content strategy. And by the way, one of those aims was not to sell anything. I sold nothing for almost a year. That's why a lot of people don't succeed at it. They don't have the patience. So I went to market for two reasons. One, I wanted to build a list of people that when I was ready to sell something that I could promote to. And there's a specific way I did that, which I'll explain. But the other is, actually there were three. I would say there were three. So the next was, I wanted to start building a relationship with the people that would ultimately want to be my fans and ultimately my customers and my enthusiasts and my supporters. And then the third is, I wanted to get data or feedback from the market that would ultimately inform me about what exactly I should sell and how I should package what I wanted to do commercially. So let me explain all. And this is, I mean, this is the strategy, right? It's not easy. It's not fast, but it's a hell of a lot faster than working 40 years at a job to try to become a gazillionaire, which you probably won't. In fact, you probably won't even be able to retire on the benefits or with the 401k or with the social security model. That's probably going to be broken by then, and you'll end up being a greeter at Walmart. Like, I promise what I'm about to tell you, as hard as it may sound, is still a lot better than like the traditional path. Is I went to market, specifically I used Facebook, but you could also use YouTube or Instagram for this. You could also use LinkedIn. Like, Facebook's great because they give you so much data, so much targeting ability, and you just have so much reach. But you could do this with other platforms too. But I went to Facebook and I started putting out these videos that, hey, I'm Jeff. I believe in excellence. And I have all this language now that I got clear on, but I got clear on it through the repetition. You talk about the volume of content that I do. I got in the habit of being very, fecund with content creation in the early stage when I was using it as a defining strategy for who I was going to be, what my product and offer was going to be, and how I was going to bring it to market and who I was going to bring it to in the market. Is I just started putting all this content out to say, hey, I'm Jeff. This is who I am. This is what I believe. This is what I know. This is what I've been doing. And I would talk about different things. I would talk about fitness. I would talk about dieting. I would talk about parenting. I would talk about being a husband. I would talk about travel. I would talk about digital marketing. I would talk about copywriting. And I know a lot about a lot because I'm interested in a lot, and I like to learn and I like to share. My name's Lerner. I've always lived it. I can't help it, right? And I would just talk about these things. And I would wait to get feedback from the market. And feedback means a lot of things. It means, are people liking my videos? Are people leaving me hateful comments and telling me what a loser I am? That's great feedback. Are people watching for an average of 42 seconds or for an average of 4 seconds? That's feedback. Are people more likely to watch a video when I talk about working out or when I talk about working on my business? That's valuable feedback, right? Through it all, you're getting known. And I actually spent money to boost these videos. And so over the course of about 9 months, I spent about 25 grand boosting these videos of some unknown, anonymous human into people's feeds simply so I could get their reaction. That's crazy, man. People are like, Jeff, yeah, you were successful before, man, but you done lost your mind this go around. Like, we have no idea what you're doing, right?
But here's the thing. I think a lot of people may shut down at that point. Like, oh, dude, I can't. Okay, so there's 25 grand I got to put in just for that period. How do you do that on a microscopic scale if you're starting from like no financial capital?
Look, I've grown a business that's doing between 25 and $30 million a year right now in less than 2 years.
Yeah.
Does somebody have to have that result to be successful? What if you were only doing $200,000 in sales after 2 years? Would you still feel successful? Great. Well, if you can be happy with 1% of what I've got now, then you could start doing 1% of what I did. Instead of spending $25,000, spend, what would that be? 250 bucks? Right? So, I mean, it's all proportional and it's all about scale, but the strategy works. Put out a ton of content, and a ton is relative too. You don't have to do 1 or 2 videos a day like I did. You can do 1 or 2 videos a week. But what you can't do is none. You can't do what most people do when I talk about this strategy, which is say, well, I'm shy, or that scares me, or what if people think I'm a loser? They will. Somebody will. Guarantee it. I had people say that I looked like a poorly rendered video. I had people say my face looked like a glitch in Grand Theft Auto. That was one of the more creative ones. I had people say, how much did you pay to get that chick to hang out with you for the day? About my wife. I had people say,
well, technically you invested significantly for that. So
I guess I did. I had people say that I'm really successful for a guy with Down syndrome. I had people I had people say it all, man. Who's laughing now? Right? Like, you just, when you have conviction, you can do a lot in this world. When you lack it, no strategy is going to work. And so, I mean, that's if I have one message, that's actually the message. So maybe we can have a moment of silence. Everybody can just sit with that. Look yourself in the mirror. Do you believe in you? Because if you're going to go to market and try to sell products or services, you're asking a whole lot of other people to believe in you, so much so that they give you money. Don't be a hypocrite. Don't ask them to believe in something that you don't. Get that right before you do any of this. I had it right. I did. That was one thing I had right. I didn't have a lot else right at that time. I had no brand. I had no experience with the strategy, but I had seen other people do it. I had actually just seen Frank Kern model it through, and he was talking about what he was doing. So it's not like I came up with this.
You didn't have to reinvent the wheel. You just modeled other successes.
What I did was I took what Frank Kern did and I did it 10 times bigger. He was doing, a couple videos a week. He called it intent-based branding. He had this little formula of how you take it and like drive it to a call to action with a form to get on the phone to sell your thing. I was like, screw this, man. I want to build an education company to change the world. I want to disrupt establishment education. I want to tell people what the digital economy has done for this old jazz piano player's life. So I'm going to take a long form approach to this. I'm going to spend money to boost the content. I'm going to build a giant retargeting list, because 9 months into this, I could go into the Facebook back office and create lists of 2 million people that had seen my videos and at least knew who I was. 2 million people that I could then run ads to.
Go ahead. You know what's interesting about that? I've heard time and time and time again that your number of people on your list is almost directly reflective of what you're going to do in revenue every month. So it's funny that you said you're doing maybe 2 to 3 million a month, and you have a list of 2 million people you can go out and retarget and market to regularly.
That's where I started. Yeah, that's where I started. Now it's a lot more sort of diverse. Now I have a YouTube audience, I have Facebook audiences, I have email. I've
it's a collective, your collective list.
Yeah, I have an email list now of 350,000 opt-ins. I had 0 when I started. But how much does it cost to acquire an email address on a list?
Right.
$2 to $5.
So dude, now you're doing 30 million in business. How do you continue to sell because you're building a personal brand. People want to work with you. People want to buy from you. How do you scale that out? How do you do millions by doing less? I think that's a secret that me, myself, even as I scale, I'm just always analyzing and thinking like, I am the brand. I am the face of my company now because I've been, great at personal branding. But now how do I scale that to 8-9 figures?
So build a super high authority personal brand, build a very, very high quality, high value, mainstream, an offer with mainstream appeal. I mean, you're never going to be bigger than your market. My market is anybody that really, my market is like anybody that wants to make their life better. So I have a really big market. If my market was like people that want to like have a fish tank for their goldfish that cleans itself, I'm not going to have a 9-figure business because it's just a tiny market, right? So I developed products like, hey, people that want to learn digital marketing, I can help. People that want to, generate passive income streams, I can help. People that want a potential off-ramp from their job someday, I can help. People that are concerned they're not going to have enough money and need supplements for retirement, I can help. People that want to, just have a more balanced approach to entrepreneurship and have better relationships and better health and keep their business going, I can help. That's something I've done. It's something I model. It's something I package in my courses. Like my course that I sell called the Entre Blueprint just has a super broad appeal. But, and I guess to the mechanical aspect of your question is, once you establish the personal brand, blow it up with paid ads. Your personal organic marketing efforts are not going to get you to $100 million or 10 or even probably 1. Paid ads, you can take over the world. But it's not, just like I said with search marketing, if you want to be profitable at which search marketing or paid ads, you want to be profitable at search marketing, have a really authoritative and powerful personal brand. Want to be successful running social PPC ads like Facebook ads? Have a really authoritative brand. Want to be successful running pre-roll YouTube ads? Well, you're a lot more likely to be successful if the YouTube ads are of a guy who also has a really awesome YouTube channel. The brand and the content is the foundation. It's the steroids. And then when you talk about doing more with doing less, what is it historically required for somebody to build? And I make no bones about it. My goal is to take my company to $100 million plus a year in revenue. Why? Because I'm not because I'm greedy, but because I want to have massive impact on the world. I want to touch millions of people, and you can't touch millions of people without a big budget to reach millions of people. And by the way, if you effectively touch millions of people, you'll probably have a big business that reflects the value that you're putting out there. Like they go hand in hand. Doesn't mean you're greedy. It means you want to do great things in the world. That's what I want. What is it historically required to build a business that big? You had to have warehouses or factories or offices, regional offices and supply chains and all this craziness. What does it take now? It takes me. It takes some guys that help me with my content. It takes some guys that help me with my ads. It takes some guys that, a few tech guys and devs. It's not a huge infrastructure.
Do you have a sales team?
But it takes me doing the hard work of building the brand.
And you have a sales team?
I have a sales team. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Yeah. I was like, you did that even without a sales team. That's something we got to talk about too.
No, you got to have some pieces in place, but you talk about doing more with less. It's all proportional. Like, so I had an interview, Onyx Singal from learn.com.
Yeah.
So I had him on my show several months ago, and we kind of had like a, silly moment where it was like, dude, what if all we wanted to do was just make like $250,000 a year? What if we wanted to have the life of the average doctor? I asked Onyx, how much would you have to work to do that? And he's like, with the size my list is now, he's like, maybe an hour a day. So like, you want to do well without doing a whole lot, invest in a badass personal brand, build a good size list, and just ride it. And you could. The problem with me and Onyx, our problem, and we joke about this, is like, we're too ambitious. We don't want to just do more by doing less. We want to do the most by doing as much as we humanly is possible. And just like, but the ratio is the same. If you have an 1 in, 8 out, it doesn't matter if you're doing it at this level or at this level. The ratio is about, the leverage is about what you're talking about, right? Less input, more output. And digital marketing coupled with a high power authority brand that's the X factor that gives you the leverage multiplier that makes your life really, really freaking easy.
Any other tips, strategies, recommendations that you would make for the audience right now, just in summation? What else is top of mind that you would suggest?
I work with a lot of people. I have a mastermind. We have a coaching program. I have thousands of students. I literally I'm on a lot of shows like this. I always give the same advice. It falls on deaf ears so often because no matter, and I'm a pretty loud person, as you've experienced. I am not louder than people's own fear and insecurity. None of us can be. And I try hard. And I ask most of my guests, man, help me, give me tips. How do we get through to more people? But the reality is the strategy I'm talking about, it is the right answer. In 2020 and probably for the next several years, this is the answer to how you get huge leverage and huge profitability using digital marketing tools. But it requires putting yourself out there so much more than most people have ever even considered doing. Now I'm competing with your demons. Your demons will win unless you help me fight them. That's what I have to say, man.
Love it. How else can people find you, follow you? Please plug your newish podcast that you got going, which is awesome. Great. You're a great podcast interviewer already, man. It takes years of refinement to get good at podcasting for some people.
I appreciate that. And I'll tell you why I've had even my own content team is like, they're like, dude, we were editing your thing and it was like really good. I found myself getting caught up in it. I'll tell you why. I have spent a lot of money and literally thousands of hours in therapy because, as I mentioned, I'm a natural introvert. I'm naturally super clunky with people. People scare the hell out of me. And I wanted to have a family and I wanted to be a great husband and I wanted to have great relationships with my kids. And I recognized I needed help. And I went to therapy and I've done a lot of coaching, but even more therapy. I call it therapy because I want people to know I'm not scared to talk about the fact that I've done a lot of therapy. It's kind of turned into coaching now, but and I learned how to validate and I learned how to listen and I learned how to inflate my empathy score. I got tested on day one of therapy. I had the empathy of like a turnip. And thankfully, I've been retested and it's much higher now, but it's because I worked on caring and loving and listening and validating and wanting people to come away from their interactions with me feeling like for at least a period of time they were special. You know, that's not something that was natural for me. In fact, I was so bad at it, I had to get help, which is actually better than being okay enough at it that you think you've got it. And that's why I do well with the interviews and stuff. But as far as finding me, go to Jeff Lerner Official on YouTube or Instagram. If you want to get into my world and learn more about the business stuff, we have a free Facebook group called ENTRE Nation. That's ENTRE Nation. So again, Jeff Lerner Official on YouTube or Instagram, ENTRE Nation Facebook group. My show is called Millionaire Secrets. If you just go to millionairesecrets.com/Connor D, so we'll know that you came from this episode.
Hey.
You can actually get a free copy of my ebook, join my, subscribe to my YouTube, listen to my podcast, all that stuff. So
Perfect. That's beautiful, man. Thank you so much for sharing, mentoring us through this today. It was an absolute blast. And again, all of you guys listening, make sure you give this man a follow. His YouTube page is on fire. It's so much fun to go check out and watch stuff. And keep an eye out for our episode we did together as well. Make sure you subscribe wherever you're listening. We're on all your favorite podcast apps. Leave a 5-star review so others can find the show too. That always helps. Yeah. And we'll see you guys over on the next one.